for joining this special time with us. So, Francis and I are super passionate about leadership. We realize that leadership is a huge responsibility and it's something that impacts so many people. It impacts your team, your family, and your broader community. So, it's a huge privilege for us to share with you our passion for leadership and how we can collectively make better leaders, more thoughtful leaders, and conscious leaders. Francis, great to be here. Morning.
Yes, it's so good to be here. We're realizing all the technology and everything. We're gonna be so good at it in a month from now, like I know it. So thank you for your patience, guys. We have to realize there's even a delay from what we do right now and when we see you. So I'm having two screens, gonna try to pick up all the comments if possible. So yes, absolutely thrilled to start the Thought Leader Thursday. We had a beautiful conversation even this week about it, and I think the goal is a conversation, right? We're gonna share our stories, analogies, and we want to hear from you. There's a lot of pressure that leaders have on their shoulders. They're dealing with their own life. They're dealing with everything that's going on in the world, and then they have to think about their team. They have to be able to really self-control themselves in a way that it's powerful for what they do. So yes, we're starting. So I will let you start this beautiful episode with Lead with Vision, Elize, and such a pleasure to start with you.
Thank you. And I think something, Francis, you just said is so powerful about creating that dream and your vision for your team and for your business, right? So, on that next slide, I think as business leaders, we so often think in a linear fashion, so we think growing our business by 5 or 10%, but what about growing by 100%? Or 200%. And what would that look like? And we want to challenge you to think big, dream big, right? It's the people who think they can change the world that actually do. We all know that Steve Jobs said that. And thinking bigger and thinking about making a bigger impact is so important. So someone said to me a while ago, when you reverse out of your garage, you know where you're going, right? You've put something in your GPS. You know if you're turning left or right. But sometimes with our life, we haven't done that. We just kind of go through the motions every day, step by step. So we want to challenge you to think bigger. And the thing is that when you create that dream, we need to think like the person that has already become that, right? So, what does that look like for you? But what kind of leader does your business need to be able to reach that exponential dream phase, right? What would you as a leader be doing? How would you be behaving? What would you be telling your team? And that is the big challenge. Like, we need to understand where we want to go. And then who do we need to become for that to become a reality?
Absolutely, and I think it's and what we're going to share during these series is a lot of what is based on the Thinking into Results program from Bob Proctor, the Proctor Gallagher Institute, and everything that we've learned on leadership. So one thing that I realized, and even like I picked up this book, if you guys haven't read this book yet, 10x is easier than 2x. That's pretty much combining this philosophy with the vivid vision. Because if I ask you, think about ways you can increase your business by 20%, or and then 50% and then 75%. The tendency that we have is to think that we have to squeeze the juice, we have to squeeze the lemon. It's optimizing the processes, it's time consuming, it's almost like a chore to try to find out ways to improve that way. But when I'm asking people and my clients, like, think about a way of 10xing your business, you're not coming up with the same answers. It's
Mm.
impossible. We don't have 24 hours times 10 to squeeze. Like, it's impossible. We have to be able to find ways to leverage it. And when we're asking ourselves these questions about how can I be exponential, it becomes not only juicy, but we're coming up with different solutions. We're coming up with different answers. Even just 2x and 10x, the way to do 2x is not going to be the same way as doing 10x. We have a world right now. Maybe we can find partners all across the world so that all of a sudden what we do is multiplied in a big way. So yeah, this philosophy of being exponential is really about asking the right questions first. And to go back to the vision, and I'm curious about your own experience, Elize, is I find that when we have something that's so juicy, so much fun, so big, that it attracts. People want to be part of this. They pretty much know
Mm,
that there's something that they can aspire in the future, because it doesn't end into, oh, it's going to be 10% increase or 20% increase. There's a progression. There's something that I can be excited about for years to come, because what we're building is so big. And that's the essence of having a vivid vision, and how you can attract people in and maybe retain, which is a big challenge right now in
mm,
the industry, right? Like the leaders have a hard time to retain the people. So ask yourself, is my vision so good that they don't want to leave? They want to
mm.
stay. They want to participate in that foundation.
Absolutely. And I think, you and I have the benefit of working with business owners and CEOs like every day, right? And I'm so grateful for that. And I love hearing people's passion about their business. The leaders excited about where they're going. And I often say to them, have you shared this with your team? And I think as leaders, we often speak to our teams about things and we communicate kind of a new strategy or our vision somewhere. But like people have a lot of other things going. And what I've realized is that like communication and getting people on board with where you're going. And I often used to say to my teams, I'm almost tired of hearing myself saying this and sharing this vision. But you must realize that, not everyone is there the first time and they kind of, busy with other things, and making sure you communicate consistently and effectively. And it almost needs to be something that is like absorbed by your team, right? I often say to my team, if I wake you up at 3 a.m., are you telling me where we're going? And that's, you almost want it to become part of who we are. And I think that, as you said, people get excited about being behind something that they buy into. People want to know where they're going. They don't want to just wake up and go through the motions every morning, arrive at the office and do the same stuff, right? I think it's important for every person to know what they're contributing to that big vision so they know, like, what I do matters. My contribution to the bigger picture is really important. And that also gives people a big sense of responsibility, right? I don't want to let my team down because this part of this vision is something I own and something I need to execute on. So I completely agree. Like getting everyone behind it, I think gets people excited. And it also makes sure that you have the right people in your business, right? Because you only want people that are aligning with this vision.
Absolutely. And when you say that, I already love the way we're doing it, because I have some ideas and I know we're starting a conversation. So when you say the right people, for me, I'm also thinking about another foundation that's very important for a vivid vision is our values. I'll give an example. I've built what I call the Night Club. So it's a community of men, a brotherhood. It's for entrepreneur, business owner, founders, CEOs, and they really want to level up. They want to level up with people that are like-minded. So how do
Mm,
you create this core of people? Well, if you have the same values, it's going to be very easy to work together, to collaborate with each other, to go for the same goal. And so we've chosen like heroic values as an example. So it's humility, it's excellence, it's respect, optimism, integrity, and courage. And I like the fact that you mentioned that you have to repeat that, because if I just say it once, it's not really my value. But if we do repeat it at many times, like ideally I would just have to ask, like, what are the heroic values? And I did test that last week. I said, what's H? And the people were coming up with the answers, because it needs to be easy. It needs to be the foundation, the core foundation of who we are, which is what
mhm,
we're talking about today,
mhm.
right? Who do we need to become? That's a huge distinction. We can spend a lot of time on that. So I think part of this vivid vision is really having that foundation of core values.
Absolutely. I think it's so true. And as you said, you want to repeat it, you want to be aligned to it. And then you need to act in alignment with it, right? And we're just talking about acting as if, are you acting as that person with humility and excellence and respect that you mentioned? And I think that's something that we need to hold ourselves accountable to. And also, and I would love you to share, a little bit more about the vivid vision. But just a final thought is, once you have that vision in place, it actually makes decision making easier because when you know where you're going, every time you need to make a decision, you go, is this helping me move towards where I want to go or not? Right. And I think having that as that North Star and being so true to it really helps us know where we need to go and what we need to do.
Absolutely. You just made me think of Dr. Benjamin Hardy, who is co-authoring this 10x is easier than 2x, and he started something called scaling. And in the same way, like it's even more than 10x. He was talking about how can you create your vision in such a way that you compress maybe 20 to 30 years into 3 years. I mean, that's bold.
Wow.
So if you
Everyone
do
wants
that,
that,
I
right?
absolutely agree with you. There's no way you can accept to do things all the time. Like you really have to ask yourself, is this leading towards my vision? And people, it's not only about leadership, we're talking about leading yourself. So in your own personal life, what I'm doing right now, either with my partner or with my kids or with my friends, is this leading into the vision of what I want in my life? You know, if am I doing this just to kill time? Like for example, like watching TV, is this really what's going to help my relationship with my spouse or my kids? Or and what's my vision? Like I mean, I think that sometimes we're just like on a treadmill. We don't even know where we're going. We just like it's the day to day. We wake up the same way. We do the same things every day. But when you have a vivid vision and you look at it constantly, it really helps us to eliminate what's not good. And
Mm,
that's actually another distinction that we can talk about for a long time, how to choose, how to make a decision, and
hmm
how to say no, which
Oh,
I know
yeah.
that for many people the pleasing uh, virus is pretty predominant, and that's not helping. It's not serving us, it's not serving anyone. So I like
Mm,
the fact that you said like when you have a vivid vision, it really helps us to choose what's important for us in our own lives. And I'm actually curious. I mean, it's hard, like I said, to get all the comments right now, but what resonates so far for you guys? We're gonna take a look at the comments, and we would love to answer and give you as much support as possible because what you're asking or your comments will help us to create the content that you need in order to be the best leader you can. You know, our vivid vision is to create conscious leadership. I mean, I think that, I've been part of corporate for at least 12 years. And I mean, it was a different era, but the point is that living in this world doesn't work anymore. Like
mm,
and the conscious leadership is the leaders that are able to be vulnerable, the leaders that are able to be real, the leaders that are using their heart more than their mind, and people can
mm,
smell that from a distance. Like really, it's about influencing. It's not about telling. And so, our vivid vision is really to create a series that you will say, "Oh, I'm so excited because every like first and third Thursday of the month, I'm gonna have some tips, practical tips on how to become a better leader." So that's
mm.
why your comments are so important.
Yeah, and having a conversation, as you say, like you and I specifically didn't want this to be like a formal presentation speaking at people, right? This is just a conversation about what we're seeing, what's going on, and talking about things that are relevant. So, knowing what's relevant for our viewers and our community is so important. And, both of us feel so strongly about community and making an impact, right? So something you just said was, you can't lead others if you can't lead yourself. And for me, that's such a powerful thought because, like we need to have the discipline, we need to have hold ourselves accountable before we can hold others accountable. I think it's having leading with that example and, you know, showing that and showing up for your people every day. And that for me is so important. And that creates and that requires a lot of self-awareness. And you were just saying that, I think back in the day it was, because I said so, and my title is chief something, so therefore you must listen to me. And I realized really early on is that, the title is only one thing, and maybe people will listen, but they may not respect what you say or what you do. And it's about influence. It's about getting people aligned, and people want to follow you, and that's what you want. You want people to buy in. You want them to like opt in to you, regardless of your title, because they like where you're going. And I think that's so important. And especially, lots of companies are more kind of flat structured and more matrix, and it's about getting people to want to work with you because you know where you're going, you stick to your values, and you're bringing people along. And I think that's really powerful.
There's so many thoughts that comes to my mind when you say that, and you know, we both know that there's a great lesson called "The Most Valuable Person," and one of the great quotes. I'm trying to remember who said it, but it was, "A great leader is not someone that's gonna make sure that you think highly of himself or herself, but a great leader is someone that's gonna help the people to think highly of themselves." So you're really there to support them. And when you mention titles, I mean, we all know that things can change like that in the world at the moment. So you think you're a VP and a big shot, but that could turn in one day.
Mm,
And I think that if we identify ourselves too much with the title, it's a false way of leading. It's not because, like you said, you have this title that I'm gonna be excited about following you. But if I forget about the title and I have this home self awareness, self control, self power, I would say, then all of a sudden I become attractive. It's not, and also for our own selves, that means that not being identified by my position means that I could be happy no matter what happens in my life, because it's not about the external circumstances, it's about the internal world that we live in. You know, it's
absolutely.
living from the inside out. So I think that the best leaders are the ones that it doesn't even matter what type of situations happening in the world, what type of economy, because they have a vivid vision and they know their own strength, and they're able to nurture the strength in others so that it like they go together in the same direction.
Absolutely. And you know what I often say to people, like when you walk into the office or boardroom or even like a social event, so often you can sense that person's had a great day, or they just have this energy or aura about them. Or sometimes someone walks in and they don't have to say anything, but you know they're having a bad day, right? It's just so like almost like they suck the energy out the room, like the way they kind of hold themselves, you know. And I think it's so important, again, that self-awareness in terms of what are you bringing to the party? Is your energy adding to the environment? Are you getting people excited? You know, people can sense that like energy you bring before you say a word. It's like how you are, like it's the being, right? And I think that's so important because, you know, so easy we just kind of go, you know, I won't say anything and no one will know, but people can sense that. And people want to be around people that make them feel good, that look for the optimistic things, and want to like solve things, right? I mean, even if something goes wrong, are you challenging yourself to look for the lesson, look for the good in it, right? Like there's always something that you can take out of any situation, right? If you have a new strategy and it doesn't work, okay, what are we doing about this? What's the lesson? How can we pivot? What do we need to change? And I think it's, you know, people that have that mentality of there's always something good in every situation. And I will make sure that I focus my energy on the right things.
Yeah, and you know, there's a quote, I can show the screen, but I'm assuming you remember the quote from Einstein. Do you want to share that? Because I think it's actually something very important that we can share to the audience. Or I can actually just show it for you. I'm going to be a good co-host. We're going to do that so that it's also easy for the people if they want to screenshot this. Hold on. There you go. That's it.
Yeah, we cannot solve our problems with the same thinking we used when we created them. And that challenges us to have a different mindset, right? So you were just saying that, you know, the leader helps other people think highly of themselves. I've heard people talk about when you read a book, you know, many of us read it like just once and you kind of go, yeah, I think I got like the gist of it. But if you read books over and over again, and many books have actually so much depth in them, you know, often you see new things. It's even when you watch a movie again, often you like hear a different like joke, right? And I think that they often say that, you know, you see different things in the book not because it wasn't there before, because obviously the words were printed, but it's because you see something in yourself that wasn't there before. And if you just think about that, that means that you have improved your awareness, you have grown as an individual, and now new things are resonating with you, you know. And I've kind of had that where you read it the first time and it's kind of like high level, and then the second time you go, wow, like That is so powerful. And I actually missed that the first time, or it resonates differently with you, right? And I think, that kind of awareness where you start noticing those things, you realize that, your perception, the way you look at things, the way you relate with things has changed, which just means that you're evolving as a person, which is amazing.
Yeah, and it really means that it's all coming from you inside, right? Like you said, if it's already, it's a different level of consciousness. So in order to, there's so much we can say about that, but the vivid vision, I would assume that for any that are watching, if you choose to go for something big, you're going to have to become someone new. You're going to have to think in a different way. And if, like reading a book, you read it once and the second is different, it's because you became someone different. Your level of consciousness changed. So in order to change things, you got to change yourself. Really, that's what it is. That starts with us. And so if you got to take a look at your belief system, do I really believe that I can do a 10x vision? Do I really believe it? And if, guess what, if you don't believe, do you think that the employees or your partners will? And I actually watched, Cheryl was mentioning 100% leading with the heart is probably the best way to be a successful leader. The heart is the next big thing. It's when you lead with a vision that's so exciting, you become somebody else. You become someone new. And you have to, because you're leaving an old world to a new world. And then people are attracted to that, like I said. And the heart, you can talk about the HeartMath Institute that actually showed how the heart emits a whole different types of energy than the brain.
Mm,
So if you want to rally your troop around you, if you're thinking in terms with your head, I mean, the energy, the frequency around it is almost nothing. But if you're leading with your heart, the people can feel. I'm pretty sure that when I'm talking right now, people can feel a certain type of energy from me and from you, and
mm,
that's really just the heart. Because if I would just we would do this presentation and say, oh yeah, next step, yeah, let's talk about this. Like, people would not be interested, right? And we hope that you're going to start to become really more interested. But the point is the heart is a great way to lead yourself and others.
mm. Yeah, Cheryl, I love that comment because that almost talks to vulnerability as well, right? And leading from the heart, being authentic, being open. I think people connect with you differently if you're just being yourself, and I think that often, especially in like transitions, right, you're taking over a team, people are comparing you to the previous leader, and I think that's when you kind of need to just kind of go, this is what I'm about, this is what I can offer, and this is what's important to me, and how are we partnering to take this business forward, right? Don't try and be someone else, be you. um, and vulnerability for me was really hard. I grew up in a family where everything needed to be perfect, everything, you always like pretend that like it's all good. And and we all know our belief system comes often from our childhood, right? And the big influences that you had in your life. And sure, that's kind of where you start. And the really powerful thing is that we can change our belief system as we get older if we choose to do the work, right? But that needs very intentional work, but also being willing to be vulnerable. So that for me was something really hard. I think early in my kind of leadership career, I always felt that as a leader, you had to have all the answers and you needed to always have everything under control, and everything needed to look kind of, you know, cool, calm, and collected. And I think that sure, you want to keep your team kind of calm, but being open about, guys, like we're doing something new, like I don't have all the answers, and let's problem solve this thing together. And you're better at this thing than I am. Someone is better at legal, or someone is better at compliance, or whatever it may be, and make sure that you surround yourself with really good people. And I think that's easy to say, but it really needs you to let go of your ego. Hey, if you have people that are better at you than you at certain things around you, we know that the collective team is getting stronger. But as a leader, you need to go, I'm okay with that. Like, I'm not the best at everything, and I shouldn't be. But I think often our ego gets kind of, takes over. And then it goes, I want to have all the answers. I want to be in control of everything. And that really holds you back. And I think when you can get to a space where you are vulnerable, you're doing the work, you can have those authentic conversations with people, that's when the true connections happen. And I think that's when you really get people to come together for a bigger goal.
Yeah, and it made me think of actually this beautiful book called Power versus Forces, and it's because we're talking about a way of being vulnerable. I think we have to ask ourselves, where am I coming from? So the fact that I do not share at the moment, where is that coming from? Is that coming from fear? Is that coming from, like, being vulnerable could be a power if you see it this way. Or if you're not sharing, it might just be because you're afraid of something. So if you're coming out of fear, you're actually in the force zone, which doesn't create much at all. The magic zone is to be in the power. So if you're asking yourself, like right now, who am I being about my goal, my business, my vision? Am I in the fear zone, a desire, pride? Or if you start to be more in the courage and willingness and acceptance and love and joy, you're starting to create at a whole different level. And so for me personally, actually I reflected on that lately about my goals. You can choose to do some, let's say it's about finance and your own finance. You're like, oh, I'm so frustrated about my own finance at the moment, and I gotta do something different. If you're staying in a zone of frustration and you do something to prove something, and it's coming out of a very different energy, as opposed to say, I'm going to do this because I'm going to be financially free, I'm going to do this because I'm going to travel with my kids, I'm going to do this because it allows me to give more to people. It's a whole different way of being, and that way of being is so much more powerful. And I had decided myself to really take a look at an inventory of where am I coming from when I want something for my vision. Am I in that force zone or am I in the power zone? If I'm in the power zone, chances are I'm going to create magic. And
Mm.
so, and that's like we said in the beginning, it's self-awareness, right? And and if you're not sure, we had this conversation even this week. It's like, what's the difference between forcing and what was the, how did we say it? Like, it was about forcing.
Oh, I was asking you about, like, when you're doing something big, it's often really scary, like if you decide to 10x your business, or you're going to embark on a new project, it's new, right? And it should be scary. And I think often we kind of go, am I just pushing through that kind of that space of challenging yourself to be bigger and better and grow, or is it forcing?
Exactly. So, forcing, what's the difference between forcing and really, I guess, being passionate? So for me, forcing, there's, you can feel in your body. Like that, I think that's another thing, to be self-aware, and just, you can just ask, how do I feel? Does that feel good or does that feel bad? Like, do I feel bad about it? If you already feel bad, that means you're in the force zone. Like, you're already forcing something. It's not coming from the right place. But if you have fear, but it excites you at the same time. So now you're in the powerful zone. Like, that's, and you can keep on going, because you can always ask yourself, like, the fact that I'm thinking about giving up on something, is that again coming out of fear or is it coming out of love? Is there, if I know I'm actually, this morning I was nervous. I was nervous about this technology that we're using right now, because there was no practice. We're doing it right now. But I didn't stop doing it because I was excited about doing it. It was not a fear where it was so big that I thought, oh, I'm not doing it. We got to find another solution. There was passion behind this. And I think that's a great kind of scale to look at when you're doing your vivid vision. Are you doing it for proving something out of, or for your own self, because you want to prove that you can get a promotion and you can, go up in the ranks? Or you're doing it because like, that's for a calling, that's for something that matters, you're connected to the value you provide in the marketplace? That is magnetic.
Yeah, and every time you challenge yourself, there will be discomfort. And I think that you almost not need to lean into it. If you're passionate about it, lean into the discomfort. It's going to be scary. It's going to be unfamiliar. And as humans, we like comfort and we like familiar, right? So you are only going to grow when you challenge yourself. And I think that the purpose of a goal is to grow. you know who am I becoming, what am I learning, and becoming that kind of next version of yourself. And I think if you kind of see the goal as this is something I truly want, and I know it's going to require growth from me. Who is that person I'm going to become in order for that to become a reality? So, Francis, I would love you to talk a little bit about vivid vision. Like, how do people go about creating this vivid vision?
Yeah, well, I think, first off, the vivid vision, I'll give you an example that is coming from an organization that does vivid vision. So there's a company in Vancouver that I think it's now called 1-800-JUNK or something like that. They had flat revenues for at least 8 or 9 years. And then they decided that, there was a one time that the guy was watching something on YouTube or wherever it was. It was an Olympian that had so many different medals. And the Olympian was talking about a way of visualizing. And that was like so vivid in his mind that it was almost close, that was reality. And so this gentleman decided to say, well, if it works for Olympians, I guess it could work for business. And
Mm-hmm.
so he decided to kind of say, what would be something that is so good that excites me? Like a vivid vision, it means like I can see it, I can taste it, I can feel it with all my senses. I can talk about it, I can tell you where I'm at, who I'm with,
What it looks
the places
like.
that
Yeah.
all of it. And then he decided to create this whole vision in all of his category of life, actually. And now all of a sudden, like I think the evaluation of the business is about $100 million. So it's totally exponential. And the reason is just because he had a vivid vision. And that's why it's so important. That's what we do when we talk about the worthy idea. We're asking people to dream big and use their heart. So it cannot be a head exercise. So I would say that when you do your vivid vision, go to a place that maybe inspires you. Go to a place where you feel relaxed, that it feels expensive. For me, I like sometimes to go to a great hotel. Like, it could be a Four Season. There's a certain smell. It's beautiful. The furniture is great. The coffee is amazing. The food is good, and you might have a great view. And so, in that environment, you already feel inspired, and you kind of ask yourself, if money or time was not an object, what would I do? We have a reflection question for you guys. Actually, it's well, I'll ask this one after, but if I knew that I could not fail on anything, what would I want to do? And actually, I'm gonna share another story, which is a personal one that changed my life. And if you guys are doing this challenge, I promise you will find clarity in your life. So it was a time where I was with my coach. I think it was in 2016, and it was after a relationship breakup, and I just wanted to move on. And so I talked to him and I said, okay, so I'm moving on now. I just want to do this thing, for write a book for 30 days. Every day I'm going to talk about happiness. I'm going to talk about sales. And my coach said, all right, can I give you a challenge or an activity that I know you won't like? Do you want to do it? Do you want to commit to it? So what are you talking about? I was like, I'm going to tell you after. Do you want to do it? And so I was kind
You
of
have to commit
frustrated
first, and then he'll tell
because I
you
didn't
what it
know
is.
what it was. And I thought, what are you talking about? And he said, all right, so are you committing? And I said, yes, I'm committing, because, I'm just frustrated. He said, okay, I want you to do nothing for 3 days. And I thought, what do you mean nothing? He's like, I said, nothing. So at that time I was in real estate, and I said, well, I have some clients, like maybe some open house. Like, I know, like, you're sneaky, but try to just tap the volume off. Like, just don't do anything, avoid it. And so I said, so what can I do? Can I go meditate? Yeah. He's like, you can meditate. Can I go in nature? Yes, you can go in nature. He said, I don't want you to watch social media. I don't want you to journal. I don't want you to do a course online, whatever. I want you to do nothing. I said, all right. And then just before the end of the presentation, the coaching, he said, and I have another question for you. He said, well, not a question, a guidance or an instruction. I want you to go 5 years from now in your agenda and write this. All right, pick up my phone. What do you want me to write? Like, I'm listening. And he said, this is the day that I die. This is what you're going to write. I'm like, so he said, what's the point, Francis? What do you want to do? Who do you want to become? Who do you want to be with? Why are you here on earth? And then I'm just like, he's like, so if you knew that, what would you do? And I was just about to spit an answer. He's like, I don't want the answer. We'll talk in 3 days. So now I'm being dropped
Mm.
with this question, doing nothing for 3 days, and I could not journal. So that means that every time I have an idea, I can I'm not able to. I'm not able to do it. I just have to constantly think about what's the purpose of my life. And I will always remember because, I two things. One, I was trying to find something to do, so I was driving, and then I saw this ice cream shop, and I never go for ice cream. I was just gonna go for ice cream, and then there was a huge line for people to wait for their ice cream, and I was probably the only one with a big smile on my face because I thought I'm killing, like
I've got
I have
nothing else
nothing
to
to
do.
do. It's fine. I'm talking to you. This is great. Like people were frustrated about their line. I'm like, I'm fine. I'm good. So, and then I met one person, one of my friend, and he said that he said, "You're so calm. I've do you have time? Do you want to spend another hour?" Yes, no problem. But the thing is, after 3 days, the level of clarity that I had for my vision was absolutely crystal clear. Like I knew exactly what I wanted to do. The company that I have right now called Resilience Element, this is the logo. This came out of this exercise. I
Mm.
basically, thanks to this vision, to this exercise, I just created the company. I had a vision. I thought I'm gonna do a documentary on, and now I started the documentary, trailer and everything. There's things that happen, but the point is that I started it and now I'm committed to it. And that's another thing about the vision is now that I know what the technology is, the purpose of the goal is not to achieve it. So I haven't done my documentary yet. That doesn't mean it's dead. That means like it might be postponed for a little while, but the point is that the purpose of the goal is to grow. And that's one of the biggest mistakes that I've done in my life because I was always miserable until I got my goal accomplished. And so it's, oh, I'm
Mhm.
gonna be happy when this thing is happening. Guess what? Like the goalpost moment, this is just one day, 1 hour, 1 minute. But then after that, you're like, now what? That's
Mhm.
why the vivid vision has to be so exciting because who you're going to become along the way, what you're going to do, the growth you're going to have is in itself very exciting. So if I share my vision of the nightclub, to me, my vision is what if every man inside this club can go anywhere in the world and they'll meet their friends, they'll meet their business partners, they'll have the same values. They can say, hey, who are my nights in London, Paris, Thailand, wherever they want to go, Estonia. They're like, I know I'm going to get my friends. So
Mhm.
to me, that is so exciting that it doesn't matter that I haven't achieved it yet because I'm going to see the growth of, oh, we've got some people from Estonia now, in Tallinn, and then we have people from Barcelona and people from Lisbon and people from Cape Town, to name South
Mm.
Africa. So this is exciting. The growth is exciting, and that's why I think the vivid vision needs to be in a place where even if you don't achieve it, it doesn't matter because you're going to grow. It's exciting, and because it's exciting, watch what's going to happen in terms of your result. Watch what's going to happen with the people that are following you. So it's a bigger answer about the vision, but it has to be crystal clear. You have to feel it. You have to close your eyes and be able to describe it to anyone you don't know and say, I'm so excited. This is what's going to happen. And it's already done. This is
Mhm.
where the belief system is so important.
And I think that's so important because you need to live as if it's a reality today, right? And that's such so counterintuitive because I feel like our society is almost like I'll be happy when I win the award or do the thing or lose the weight. But if you thinking about that right now, like I must be grateful for that happening already. So you must have that clarity so much that you living as though it is a reality because that's when you'll know what you need to do, right? And people often talk about, people wanting to lose weight, etc. And if you're always thinking of yourself as someone who battles to lose weight, I don't have the discipline to exercise, and I try and eat well, but I, don't always stick to it. Then when something comes up, you'll have the excuse not to wake up, or you'll see the dessert and you'll eat it. But if you go, I am that person already. I am an athlete. I respect my body. I take, my discipline seriously in terms of going to bed and waking up. Like that is the stuff that'll get you there. But you need to act like it today, regardless of what the scale says and the mirror says, right? And I remember, I think James Clear's book talks about every action is a vote for the person you want to become. And that for me is so powerful because, I wake up early in the morning and I exercise and I meditate and I then kind of start my day. And often I'm like, oh, like I had a late night and, I've got a lot going on. Yeah, you easily come up with excuses, let's be honest, especially in the winter here in the US because it's like dark and cold. But then I challenge myself and I go, do I want to be the person that shows up for myself, even though I don't feel like it? Or am I the person with excuses?
Absolutely. And
And that's actually harder, right? Because then I have to kind of face myself and go, Elise, who are you being right now? Like, are you giving up on yourself or are you showing up for yourself?
that's a great question. I always say to my coaching clients, first question for anything they do is like, who am I being at a moment? That gives an answer. And then the second is, who do I need to become? And so we have some reflection questions. One was, what do I really want if anything was possible? That's the vivid vision, right? And where in life am I limiting my results by believing more is not possible? So it's really about the belief system, right? Like, do I really believe that this vivid vision is possible? And if not, why not? Take an inventory of all the beliefs and you'll see that actually life is a reflection of who you are. It's not a reflection
Mm,
of the things that you have in your life. It's really about who you are, your belief system. And that belief system is the most important thing that we need to adjust in order to get the results that we want. And that's also within a team. Like, do we believe in this? Because if we have non-believers, that's not going to help. It's actually going to be an anchor in the team, right?
mm,
And you've had this
absolutely.
experience as a CEO, I'm sure, where you had the people that were very positive, a different outlet, a different attitude, and the results were probably very different from others.
Absolutely. So, I think the first thing that comes to mind is everyone has infinite potential. And I think often we think, oh, like those people have created amazing businesses or they're celebrities or whatever they've done, and that's them and they've got this talent and I can't do it. And that's absolutely not true, right? They may have had the discipline and the perseverance, and sure, some people have talents, um, but but if you work hard enough, you can achieve it. And that is like so true. Every time you read someone's book who's like achieved amazing things or watch documentaries, so often we just see the overnight success. And then they'll tell you they've been working on this thing for 15 years, and it was like no after failure, and they just kept going. Like Edison's 10,000 times to make the light bulb. But even like Elon Musk and all these guys, they often thought the business was going to go under. He was sleeping on the factory floor. So, having that perseverance, and so many people say that is actually one of the most important things to success. Are you persistent? Are you consistent in the way you do things? And will you stand up every time you get knocked down? Because most people, you get one or two no's or one or two things that don't work out for you, and you go, I'm not cut out for this, and we move on, right? And I feel like most people have probably done that. And then you kind of read that, like I was even watching a interview by the Nvidia CEO, and he was saying that if he could wish one thing upon people, is that you have lots of obstacles and that you have like difficult times in your life, because he said that resilience is what you need. And often these days, people, kids, the way we teach them, everything is easy. And that's actually like something that you're doing them a disservice, right? Because to be successful, you must have that resilience to work through difficult times. So you were asking about, people's kind of performance levels, and I've often worked with sales teams where especially in my banking background, you'll have access to the same client base. Your team is selling the same product. They have the same kind of training. Yet some people sell three, four, five times more than someone else. And for me, it was always fascinating because I'm like, I'm telling you the same things and we're doing the same like preparation and we're doing mock kind of presentations. And, we all have access to this kind of banked client base. So fundamentally, most of the variables are the same, but the person is different, right? And how are they presenting? And how are they showing up? And what rapport are they building with the client? We were talking earlier about the energy people can sense, right? If you're walking in and you're confident and you're wanting to serve and you're caring about your client's needs and you want to help their business solve the problem they have, that is very different. And people can sense that, right? To the person that's just going, firstly, I'm feeling insecure, but I don't actually care what you want because I'm selling you. That's very different. And we've all been sold to and we don't like it, right? So
Absolutely.
people sense when you're sincere about, let me understand what your problem is and do I have the solution for you or do I not, right? Let's talk about how am I serving you and how am I helping you versus, do you know what, like, I actually just want you to sign the piece of paper and get out of here. That is fundamentally different. And so for me, it was a lot around this team about how am I helping people show up in the right way, building that relationship with a client, building trust with a client, because that is when you're successful, when people know that you have their best interest at heart.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny you say that because yesterday I was watching an interview between Mary Folio and Seth Godin, and he was talking about, your differentiator factor, and he said, "Who cares about that? It's so selfish because when you're thinking about you, all you need to do is think about, am I solving a big problem to my clients or to my?" And if you have this focus, if you're being interested about their own goals, their own initiatives, their own challenges, it's a whole different vibe. And I want to go back to the way of being because that is so huge. It's actually the foundation of everything. So I
Mm,
have a question that I will ask people, and I would love them to write their comments after I ask the question. But before that, I want to make sure that we understand truly the be, do, have equation, because I've been living in a world for a long time reverse. It was have, do, and be. So what do I mean by that? I always felt that when I would have something, I'll be able to do something so that I could be happy. And it's a race that you can never win. You can never win because it's external. It's always in order that I will be. So that's why we've said it so many times already. Who do I need to be in order to accomplish my mission? Now, being, just to show you a very powerful example of how being is so powerful, I use powerful many times. I'm listening to myself. So let's say you're going to Starbucks and you have, two different types of baristas. There's one, we give them like a list of things to do, like it's the doing. This is what you need to do. You need to ask them what they want. First off, I also say, how are you? Here's your change back. Have a good day. Let's say that's the list. So you have this first person, let's call Tracy. Tracy comes in, she's the barista and she wants to serve Elize. And Tracy's talking to Elize, like, "Hi, how are you? What would you like to have?"
mm,
Okay, yeah, okay, this is your change. Have a good day. So that's the doing. Then you have another one. I don't know. Julie comes in and she's the new barista and she has the same task, but Julie is talking to Elise and she's like, "Elise, how are you? How's it going? What would you like to have?" "Oh, we want to have this." "Oh, it's a great choice. Here's your change back." Because now I'm dating myself. So it's all about the apps right now. And have a beautiful day. So the point of that is that the doing is exactly the same. It's a task of things to do, but the way of being is wholly different. So which one would you rather go to in a coffee shop? Would you like to go to Julie or would you like to go to Tracy?
mhm,
I think we all know the answer. So this is just to prove that actually this point helps you to be exponential because you're doing the exact same thing. You're not doing something so different. We're trying to optimize the processes and everything, but first maybe we should ask ourselves, can we modify our own being?
mhm,
Our way of being, because if I, like you said, I'm being curious about my client, I want to help them, and if I don't have the answer, I'm going to find it. If it's not my solution, I will refer it to my competitor. Ooh, I'm going to do that. That's a whole different way of being, and that's how you become exponential, because now things are going to start to be attracting to you, like they're like you're changing the game. So now the question for the audience is, who do I need to become to make my goal a reality? I'd love
mhm.
the people to comment, like, What's a trait? What's a way of being that would help you to create your vivid vision, to make your goal a reality? And it
Hmm.
could be, well, I have to believe that I'm capable, so I need to be I am capable. Or maybe I'm worthy, or I am confident, or I need to be curious, like you said. I need to be caring about my clients. Like, who do I need to be to make my goal a reality?
And that so much works with what you were saying about be, do, have, right? Because if you're being confident, being curious, being resilient, being worthy, how would you behave, right? So then that's the do part. And then when I'm doing those things, what is the result? But as you say, it needs to start with who do I need to become? And as we were saying all along, it starts internally, right? You create that regardless of what's happening around you. You create from that vision, knowing where you want to go, and everything else kind of falls into place once you know that.
Absolutely. And we have other questions like, and by the way, we will give you those questions. It's in a Google Doc. So for anyone that wants to reflect and jot down and really create their vivid vision, it's going to be for you. So another one was, and I think this one is really about making a decision. So what if I don't change? What's the cost of not changing?
And that's
If I look at my performance right now, or my vision, or what I tell people or try to influence them to do, like, what if nothing changes? Is that really going to is that really going to attract more clients? Is that really going to make sure my people will want to work for the organization? Do I have a culture that's so exciting? What about my core values? Or like, what if I don't change?
that for me is quite a scary one because I think so often we're in our routine, we're doing our thing, and we kind of feel like it's good enough. You know, you're in the job that's okay, but you don't love it, or you're in the relationship or in a situation that you don't love, and you kind of convince yourself that it's good. You're like, I should be grateful for this, and I can take care of my family, etc. And sure, that's absolutely a reality, but you know, you were talking about, what if today is my last day? What would I want? And if you don't challenge yourself to think, where do you want to go and what changes do I need to make for myself? How do I need to, as an individual, grow? Then what, right? So what if I just delay this forever or delay this by a couple of years? Like, what does that mean? And creating that urgency, because we so easily just stick with something that's familiar again, and we don't change. And then you look back 5 years and you go, like, that's not what I wanted, and do you want to do that? And I often challenge myself. I've got two kids, and what example am I setting for them? Like, am I challenging myself? Am I growing? Am I getting out of my comfort zone? Am I aligning with my values? I mean, I've said no to some like really important business opportunities just because it didn't align with my values. And I was just like, yeah, I was like driving to the office every day going, I really don't want to be in this situation. And it was so against the grain. And I was like, Elise, like, who are you being right now? And what example are you setting, right? Like, am I going to say to my kids, sure, I could like afford things for you, but like I hated every second of it. Like, what is that? What is that showing? And how am I being a role model for them? So I must admit that definitely keeps you on the straight and narrow, going, I need to be that example,
Yeah.
and kind of leading the way in terms of doing things that are aligned with who you are and who you want to be.
I love that, and being in line with your values, because there's definitely a conflict when you're not. And I see a lot of conviction. A big element of the resilience element formula that I call is conviction. You're wise. If do you have a lot of reasons why this vision is important to you? If you have a reason for your kids, for yourself, for your legacy, for like, that means that when an obstacle comes in, chances are you will be able to wake up in the morning because you know why you're doing it, and it's also very exciting. So, that's, and if time is a limited resource, and one question we had is why now is the right time. Well, you said it, like 5 years goes fast, pretty like that. And I do have a friend that passed away last year suddenly, and it was 47 years old. That to me, I was 46, I'm turning 47. And I, I just realized that could just be like that. And I'm pretty sure that he was not done with his mission. But what it asked me as a question was, am I being alive while I'm alive?
Mm.
You know, am
Wow.
I really loving what I'm doing? Is that exciting? That goes back to the exercise I had in 2017 or 16. You know, like if I only had 5 years to live, what would I do? Would I do
Mm.
what I'm doing? And if not, then that could be gone tomorrow. So what's the point? Who do you want to
Mm.
be with? And vivid vision is such a great concept, because when you're living in that world, that means every day you wake up, you're excited about what you're creating, you're excited about what you're growing, you're excited about who you become in the process. And people can feel it, especially kids, right? I'm sure, like, you know, if you come back and you're just deflated, presence and time is the most valuable thing that we have in our life.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's a powerful way to end. So I know that we only have a few minutes left. Do you quickly want to put up the slide with the
Yes,
Google Doc so people can get that QR code? Um,
absolutely. Let's see. There you go. I'm gonna.
So I want to
Rem-
challenge our viewers to go through the exercise and ask yourself these questions. I mean, these are really important questions that we need to, are you being intentional about every day? Do you set an intention every morning? Do you wake up and go, I'm going to be really thoughtful today, or I'm going to make sure that I connect with everyone that I interact with, or I'm going to leave everyone feeling better after speaking to me? I love challenging myself with that. Like, what am I leaving people with? Am I leaving them with this kind of impression of feeling better, feeling more powerful, feeling more positive and empowered? So, set that intention and have that like clear vision of what you're doing, what you stand for, and the impact you make to everyone around you.
yeah, and that's why we wanted to start with this, because if you don't know where you're going, I mean, what's the point of leading any organizations or leading your own life? So the first thing first is really to create a vision that is so vivid in your mind that you feel it's already you're being that person right now. That every day of your life is exciting, and you know where you're going, and you can say no to things that are not serving that purpose. Otherwise, we're just being, that's why if you're overwhelmed, that might mean that there's too much. Like you're saying yes to too many things that are not serving something. And that's the time to find clarity and just say, what do I really want? Like if I knew everything's possible, and understanding that my belief system has such an impact on everything else, and we will touch base on that in the next series. We will show you how you can actually, how the mind works, how to change your paradigms, how to change your self-image. What is fear? How do you go through fear? Like how to be the most valuable person with some key to major attributes of leadership. There's so much that we can share. And today was really about creating your own vision, and ask yourself, like, is this really exciting? Do I see it? Like I can feel it, or is it just
Mm.
vague? And if it's vague, well, you're gonna have vague results. So we want you to get great results with clarity. And the next slide is very simple. It's if you want to connect with each, for us, it's super easy. You can scan that. We will also put into the comment section the Google Doc link so that you guys can click on it. Our vision was to create value for the leaders here, the founders, the founders, the CEOs, the entrepreneurs, the business owners. And it's been such a great pleasure to do that with you, Elize. Thank you for your beautiful presence and insights.
Thank you, Francis. Thank you so much. And thank you for everyone for joining us. This is a really exciting journey for both of us, being able to share, able to have kind of authentic conversations and just share things that you and I are like very, very passionate about. So it's an honor and a pleasure. And I look forward to doing this twice a month with you and going on this longer journey with everyone. So thank you for being here.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, guys, and enjoy your week.
Take
Cheers.
care. Bye bye.